And so the last point I want to make, which is a larger point, which is this is what our generation will be defined on. My parents' generation, civil rights movement. The greatest generation, they met the fearsome threat of totalitarianism and stopped it in its tracks and freed the world. Our generation is going to be known for how we did for our kids. Right now in America, we face the painful threat that our kids are going to have higher obesity rates, lower literacy rates. I could go on and on, that this will be the first generation of Americans. We face this crisis that after generation, going back to the 1700s, every generation's done better than the last. And this could be the first time on a host of measures that this generation falls behind. And so the question that your grandchildren are going to ask you is, where were you? Where were you when America was at the brink? When the idea, the promise, those words that are said by kids in Watts, kids in Newark, kids in Chicago, when they put their hands on their heart with belief and earnestness and say those 5 words, liberty and justice for all, were you willing to show the same level of sacrifice as those who stormed beaches in Normandy or did freedom rides? Where were you? And so these partnerships, these meetings are great. But it doesn't start with the corporation, the mayor, the school board. Look in the mirror and say, what more am I willing to sacrifice? It's a sin in America that there are thousands in cities all across America, thousands of kids right now that are on the waiting list for a mentor. 4 hours a month, the amount of time we spend watching our favorite TV shows. And I know you folks in California watch Real Housewives of New Jersey, Jersey-licious, Jersey Shore. Give it up and mentor a kid. Because I'm telling you right now, revolutions don't begin with what the other person does. They begin with what you are willing to sacrifice. If you leave this conference and don't say, I'm willing to step up and do one more thing than I did last year, then you are responsible for the problem. And I end with these words. There's a great author named James Baldwin who wrote this phenomenal book, should be required reading to become an adult, I think. It's called The Fire Next Time. And at the end of that book, it's all you need to read. Forget required reading. You got to read the last page. It's not a hard assignment. Read the last page. Because in this painful book, where he portends of the challenging things that are now and that would come to be, this guy, he was actually, literary critics criticized him for saying the end of the book was too Pollyannish. Because in all the pain of America, he still found hope. It's that hope of that kid that's willing to take an underpaying job in Watts and goes there to teach anyway. It's that mother in Chicago who stands up and works a full day's job at minimum wage, but still volunteers in that school for other people's kids. This is the call that Baldwin had that gave him hope. And I paraphrase, he said, I know what I'm asking you is impossible. But in today's day and age, the impossible is the least we can demand. For one is, after all, emboldened by the spectacle of human history, and Negro history in particular. For it is nothing less than a perpetual testimony to the achievement of the impossible. And if we, and by we I mean the truly conscious whites and the truly conscious blacks, do not come together now as lovers and insist upon and demand the consciousness of us all, we are destined to recreate the Bible prophecy made real in the Negro spiritual. God gave Noah the rainbow sign. No more water, the fire next time. The fire will rage in America, and it's gonna be ignited in Chicago. It's gonna be sparked in LA. It's gonna go ablaze in Newark, and it won't be the fires of riot and rage. If we do the right thing, it'll be the very torch of the American ideals will be ignited again for yet another generation. But we cannot hope and wait, because as King says, change will not roll in on the wheels of inevitability. That must be carried in on the backs of foot soldiers. We are those foot soldiers. This is our nation. We must take control of our future because the only way to predict it is to make it happen. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the education mayors.